Hi and welcome. I'm Tara Swiger. I help makers and artists create profitable and sustainable businesses with their artwork or their thing that they love and are passionate about. And usually we talk about making money, right? Profitability, marketing, selling. That is what I help people with. But because it's the beginning of the year and you also are interested in hearing more about one of my goals, I wanted to talk with you more about what we're doing and why we're doing this. Before I get into it, I want to let you know that if you need help narrowing down your goal for 2020, I have a worksheet that will help you pick a goal for the next quarter. And obviously you might have several goals for 2020, but what are you going to work on next and how are you going to work on it, along with all of the past podcast episodes and transcripts and worksheets I've created at the beginning of each year. I think I've been doing that for 5 or 6 years. You can find that all at taraswiger.com/2020goals. So taraswiger.com/2020goals. I'll link it up in the description here. One of our goals that y'all said you wanted to hear more about is to save in 2020. Save in a way we've never saved before because saving money is hard. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. Saving money is hard, and getting on top of your own money stories and the things that are holding you back and the things that are kind of subconsciously running the show when it comes to money is hard work. And we've individually, when I say we, I mean my husband and I, we're partners when it comes to this. We're on the same team. We have been working on our stuff around money since we became adults together. And this is just the newest kind of experiment that we're trying to see if it will help us get where we need to go. So before we get into the specifics, I want to say that we're talking about our own spending and our own habits and our own issues. And that is going to be different for everyone. So this is very, very personal in that, not that it's private, because I think it helps when we share and we hear what other people are doing and we talk about it, but it's personal in that it's going to be different for everybody. What is one of my issues might not be one of your issues. One of the things that is holding me back might not be what's holding you back. So listen to this and keep in mind that this is for me, and something like this might work for you, but it might not, depending on what your issues are. You've got to do the internal work to figure out what it is you need to do to reach your goals. So with that caveat, and that goes for everything I ever share, but when it comes to money, this is sometimes really triggering. So I want to make sure we're all on the same page, that it's personal to you and your goals and your habits. Let's start with what I thought we would cover is why, because otherwise it doesn't make sense, why we decided to do it, what our habits are, and why as in what it is we're going towards. Because I don't think there's any point if you're not going towards something. And then our rules, how we're actually setting, what that means for us, because it's going to mean something different for everybody. And then how we're actually setting it up in our life to work out. So first of all, what a no-buy is. I suddenly discovered these videos on YouTube. I guess YouTube decided I need it. And I was entranced. So for several days, I watched a million videos on YouTube. I'll link up my favorites in the description about people's no-buy year. I'm going to tell you why they did it first. So a lot of people, first of all, what a no-buy year is where you don't buy certain categories of goods in order to break the habit, often, of compulsive shopping. But I think that it can break a lot of other habits as well. Habits of mind, habits of stress. We'll get to that in a minute. So a lot of times these were beauty bloggers or fashion bloggers who had gotten sucked into the vortex of social media and what people were posting, what people wanted and what they could buy. And then like creating this idealized self that would have that stuff. And then by buying it, she could get a step closer to that idealized self, not realizing that the idealized self she was trying to get to is actually a person who could easily afford to do this, not just a person who had the thing, but a person who had the money to have the thing. She didn't have the money to have the thing, so it was a problem. And that spoke to me after a while, after watching several of these, which I found fascinating just on a human level of how people are so different. As I was watching it, what I realized, somebody said something about that it helped her break the habit of mind of when she didn't feel good, she would click around on sites and fill up a cart even if she never bought it. But all those open carts sometimes then would get bought whether she could afford it or not, or whether it was going on her credit card or not. And that's what I mean by afford it, is actually have cash and be able to pay bills while you buy this thing. So my own personal habits, not those. So it's very easy to be like, oh, this doesn't apply to me. But let me tell you about my own personal habits. And that's why this is super stressful. So Jolie is here live, and she knows she's been on the end of me. I don't care to buy things. Like, I don't care to spend money. I don't like it. It makes me feel angsty because my own money issues, my own money stories from my childhood. Spending money makes me afraid that there won't be more money, and that, like, I won't be able to buy the thing I'll need in 2 weeks, like food or gas or paying off an automatic bill that's coming out of my business if I buy the thing now. So what I tend to do is not buy for a long time. And then if I have to buy, say, a food processor, because we actually really need it, and Jay convinces me we really need it, I'll buy like 10 other things that have been in my mind to get all at the same time. And that is a kind of, it's basically letting my stories run my life. Letting the story that if I spend money, it's bad, so I might as well like spend all of it right away so I don't have to like deal with it. Like, it stresses me out. What I've realized is it stresses me out to have money that's just sitting there, like in savings, because I'm afraid that it's going to go away. So sometimes what I've done in the past is like push it away because I'm not comfortable with it. And so if we need this, well, then we might as well buy these 10 other things. And when you have a business or an income that is variable, there are times when you like, so for the past several years, my business is paying all of our bills and we're getting by with no problem. So if you're a family member on Facebook watching this, like, don't worry about us. We're fine. But what will happen is we'll have months where we're just covering all of our bills, and then months where we have extra, because I have months that are like more profit and months that are less. It's not the same as sales, just remember. And what happens in those times is I will get like comfortable with not having like any extra, us just getting what we need to get, living pretty simply. And then we have an influx, and then I have this running list. We both have this running list of things we'd like to get for the house, right? Things like a new coffee maker or a coffee table because our last one is looking dingy, and then we go to buy those. And then what I want to do is just get all the things I could possibly want now so I don't have to do it again. It's avoidance behavior. It's also, it's like stress driven. I always feel kind of panicky when it's happening. I always kind of feel panicky when we're going to go shopping and I'm not entirely certain what we're going to get. A lot of this is about control, and I don't want to live like that. And it's not helpful to our savings if we spend the money when we have it. You're not saving. So I live with somebody, and he's given me permission to talk to you guys about this, whose habits are almost the exact opposite. He would rather spend money every single day, like always, and we both use it as a way to buffer our feelings. So some people use food to buffer their feelings, some people use shopping, some people use talking on the phone, some people use gambling, some people use drinking. I mean, everybody probably uses some combination of those things that are both, instead of saying healthy and unhealthy, let's say wise and unwise. And if you're using unwise buffering strategies, then they're making your life not feel and be what you want your life to feel like and be like. That's all we're talking about here. So we're not talking about going massively into debt. We're not talking about living on the very edge, spending it all on drugs and hookers. Because most of y'all, if you're here, that's not your issue. But we're talking about leading a life and making choices based on mindfulness and what we truly want to create in our life, and not just what's automatic. So what's automatic for Jay is to, every time he goes to the gas station, to go in and get a drink and peanuts or to buy something. Every time we drive by Target, to go to Target and go in and get something. And what would happen, especially when we had the kids, is we would have something we needed at Target. We would go in, and then I'd be like, I'm already here. I'm exhausted. Let's just buy these 10 other things that I see that are cute. And we'd end up, I know you guys know the feeling. You walk to the cash register and you're like, I came for a $20 thing and it's $100. You're like, okay. So that was what we were going to put in savings this week. Or, well, I guess we have to move a little out of savings to cover that. That's what I'm talking about, is that feeling of like mindlessness. This last year was full of the kind of stress we hadn't experienced except for very rarely. When someone dies, when you move, when you lose a job, that kind of stress. Getting a new placement, going to court dates, meeting bio families, losing the kids because they're reunifying. All of those are the level of stress that are in like moving or losing a job kind of levels of stress. And it's not good if you deal with that through spending money or through eating, like spending money on food that you don't actually want to be eating anyhow. And so that's how we dealt with it. So this is another way of like acknowledging. So part of what we've been doing is having conversations and acknowledging this is how it is. No other kind of budgeting strategy, like giving certain areas certain amounts of money or putting money in savings first, none of that seemed to work for us. And we've tried a lot of it, and it would still be like, we're stressed, it's 8 p.m, we have to get extra diapers, oh, and we spent another $40 that we didn't want to spend. I don't like that feeling, and so I want to stop that feeling. So I meant to say this at the beginning, there's nothing about, shopping isn't bad, spending money isn't bad. For the first part of my adulthood, like I actually thought it was like morally wrong to spend money. That's not what I'm saying anymore. That was just my own issues. I'm past like spending money is bad, but so this is not about like a moral judgment, like it's good and holy or pure or clean to not spend money. That's, some people get into that. Just like with eating, like clean eating, food doesn't have morality and money doesn't have morality. Both, along with lots of other things, are a question of, are you living the way you want to live? Are you making decisions the way you want to be making decisions? Like a lot of us manage a lot of our adult life great, and then things get stressful and we don't have a coping strategy that is wise, that helps us lead the kind of life we want to lead. And on top of that, we went through most of my childhood and the first part of my adulthood and marriage not having enough money to ever buy anything extra. So there is also this sense of treating because you can afford it. Like, and when I say afford, I mean can still pay all of your bills without being like, we'll pay electricity this month and we'll pay water next month, and then we'll pay the electricity and it'll be 2 months behind, but we'll like always stay 1 month behind on all the bills. Like that's how it was in our early marriage. And then that's how it was in the early days of my business being our primary income too, back in the day. But it still made more money than any day job I had ever had did. And so when I say afford, I mean I can pay all my bills on time and I can spend $200 at Old Navy, which is a place I wasn't in for most of my life, none of my childhood. And it feels like a treat. But if it doesn't feel good, it's not much of a treat. Does that make sense? And so, again, it's not about morality. You spending $200 at Old Navy might be great. You being able to afford to spend $200 at Old Navy might be like a dream, as it was for me for a long time. And yet, that doesn't mean that it is wise in every situation or the right kind of treat for every situation. There are absolutely times when spending money is a fantastic treat and it feels amazing. That's what I want more of and not less. So I do want to say that all of this only makes sense. I feel like nobody who ever talks about this ever says this part of it. It only like applies if you're spending money on extra stuff. For huge portions of my life, there was no money to spend on anything extra. So food and gas and the bathroom supplies like toilet paper and shampoo and soap, plus electricity and water and housing, that's it. Like that was the income. And it was super, super stressful. So there is in no way, the stress of not saving and spending your money unwisely is not the same as the stress of not having enough money. Somebody said, I don't know if you want to be on the thing forever, is we've never had extra. So when we do, I'm so excited to buy things. So that's exactly what it was like for us, is at the point where our income was allowing some extra wiggle room. That's where we got in the habit of like treating ourselves with Target, treating ourselves with eating out. I mean, there are whole portions of our early, maybe 5, 8 years of our marriage where we ate out like so rarely that I would take a picture and it's in our scrapbook. Like we ate out this day, like once every 2 or 3 months, unless our parents were in town and they took us out. So like, yeah, that it's so I read a study that said that people who were raised poor, like under the or right around the poverty line, actually end up spending more when they become when they hit like a middle class salary than people who were raised at a middle class salary, and they go more into debt because of the having money isn't very comfortable and they don't know what to do with it. Now that I've explained a little bit about the habits and the stress, and there's also the feeling of like, where did it all go? So in months that I made more, or months and years that I made more than I ever had before, we still had we had more stuff, but we didn't have more money at the end of the year or the end of the month. And so there was always this feeling of like, where did it all go? And what that led for me was to feel like, what's the point in earning more money if it's just all going to disappear? Like, what's the point in growing my business if all we're going to get is more stuff? Like, I don't want more stuff. I'm not interested. Our house is fine as it is right now. What I would like is to be able to own a house and have a car that wasn't 15 years old. But I don't feel like we're ever saving up for that. I feel like the money is just disappearing. And so it became very demotivating for my work as well. And not that I ever was motivated by money, but I was motivated by us being okay, like by stability. I find super motivating. So I felt that, and this was all subconscious, it's taken me a while to realize it, that because I'm motivated by stability, actually having more money felt more destabilizing. And there's an important kind of dichotomy there that I just hinted at but didn't outright say, which is, I really want you to think about this. There's a difference between wanting money and wanting things. A lot of people that say they want to make more money actually want to have more things. Either is fine, by the way, but you need to know which one it is you want. And my husband is a person who wants more things. He was uncomfortable with having money, whereas I wanted the stability of the actual like money in order to get bigger things, more stabilizing things, like owning a house. I hope that makes sense. And wait, I have another thing. Oh, and there's a difference between spending money and having money. So spending money is like, it flows through you and out and away. And having money is like, you can then make choices mindfully with it. Jay had said that he was like, right, so when you talk about having money versus spending money feels like what people should do. I'm going to be just general and say like people in his family would be really comfortable spending the money they had and not keeping it, because keeping it seems like that sin of greed and holding on to it. And Scrooge McDuck, you know how Scrooge McDuck swims around in his pile of money? Like that seems wrong to Jay. Like that's the archetype that is like bad. And having money means that. Instead of having money means you're actually just holding it for a short time until you trade it for something that you want even more than you want the random $2 tea towels at Target. Like holding on to the money just means you're getting something better than a lot of crap at Target or random clothes at Old Navy that like you're not really going to wear because you didn't really want to buy them anyhow. That's like been part of our mind shift change, is to realize that having money isn't Scrooge McDucking it, because you can't be generous unless you have it to give. And you won't have it to give if you spend it as soon as it comes into your life. Or frugal in order to be generous. Because, from the show Kung Fu from the 70s. But that was like the beginning of a mindset shift for him, because he had thought like we're frugal in order to keep all of our money, to keep it for ourselves so we can swim around it. When in reality, like that's not how we live. That's not how... We're not suddenly going to become different people because we just don't spend our money immediately. So Dawn asked a good question. How is a no buy, how is not buying certain categories of things going to help for mindfulness? Well, what it does is it gives space in between that minute where you think, ooh, I'll buy this, and actually spending your money on it. Setting a rule, and this is why we decided this for now, because it will give us a rule to follow. Because here's the thing, we've tried, oh, we'll just spend less. Oh, we'll only go out once a week or once a month. Oh, we'll only talk about it before we spend over $20. But the fact is, we're really good, and all of y'all are really good at your brain convincing you that whatever you have been doing is the right thing to do and just to keep doing it. It's really, really, really hard to change habits. And what can help sometimes is to go cold turkey, to allow that space between you wanting the thing and you getting the thing. And that space is where mindfulness happens. That space is where, wait, why am I searching for the best whatever on Amazon right now? Why am I saying, hey, I'm just going to run to Hobby Lobby and pick up this thing? What am I trying to avoid right now? Maybe I'm trying to avoid that feeling that I'm going to like run out of it and I'm not going to have any more when I need it. Maybe I'm trying to avoid the feeling of boredom or of frustration or of all the like just stress and sadness, and I don't want to go home and have to figure out what meal to cook when I could just grab a cheese pizza because I'm so sad. I don't want to deal with my sadness. So I'm just going to go like distract myself with cheese pizza. That, setting up a hard and fast rule, gives us that space to process what's going on. What are the feelings that are coming up before acting on the feelings? Because that space is really hard to do just like, oh, I'm going to remember to do that from now on. Like, I've been meditating for years, learning how to create that space, and yet I still don't have it when I'm in Target. So maybe this will create the space. And again, this is an experiment. We don't know. We don't know if it'll work. We don't know if it won't work. We don't know. So the experiment, this is like now the outline of what we're actually going to do. The really important thing for us is that we're not spending money because spending money is bad. We're not spending money because we don't have money. We're not doing a no buy year because of scarcity mindset. We're not doing a no buy year because there's not enough in the world and so we have to hoard it all. We're doing it because we want to spend money on things that we want. We want to have saved up the money to buy Jay a new car. He's driving a car that we bought for $2,000 with my first Creative Live check. How many years ago? That was 2014. It was
6 years ago.
Yeah, so we've gotten our $2,000 out of that car 6 years ago. So a car that's safe and drivable, because we can't put the girls in the car that he drives. It's too small to fit the car seats in it. So like we only have the one car to have the girls. And now that we have 3 former foster kiddos that we hang out with all at the same time, we have to we're spending more gas to go back and forth to get them, and none of them live close to us, of course. Also, our debt, paying off credit card debt that was incurred through the business and through travel. We've never been big compulsive shoppers racking up like shopping debt. It's always been travel debt or business debt. So paying that off and to put a down payment on a house. So this isn't about avoiding something. It's about moving towards something. We're moving towards something by giving ourselves some hard and fast rules. So what it means for us is that there are categories of things we're just not going to buy for the next 3 months. So we're starting out just a 3-month thing because a year just seemed really long. And I also think we would just forget. So 3 months is like good, measurable. We'll decide what to do at the end of the 3 months. But food, okay to buy. Gas, okay to buy. Of course. Like Jay does like to go a little crazy at the fancy grocery store, but it's always within, like, we'll work on that. Maybe not buying in other areas of our life will like seep into that as well. But that's not really my concern. That's his concern. He can decide about that. How we set this up is we first talked about, I was watching these videos and I started to make lists like, okay, so if I did have a problem, if all my money was just flowing out of my life and I don't know where it's going, it's very easy to blame my spendy husband. But in my own life, my own spending habits, where does it go? And I made a list of categories. And then we sit down and we talked about it. And he's like, I love that idea. I've been thinking that I need something more defined other than just constantly like, oh, you shouldn't get that. Should you get that? I don't know. Should you? Blah, blah, blah. It's much easier if it's just defined. If there's just a clear yes or no already set up in his own brain. So then he came up with a list of categories that like he doesn't want to buy from or that trigger him to spend money when he doesn't really want to spend money anyhow. So food, fine. Groceries, fine. Eating out with other people, fine. Because that is a way that like I see any of my friends is over coffee or dinner. And his parents come into town, we go out to dinner. My mom wants to go out to eat, we go out to dinner. We either split it or we buy or she buys. But like we don't want to say no based on are you buying me dinner or not. Also, gifts are fine. So we still have a couple gifts to get for friends that we've like had in mind for Christmas, but they haven't been around. And gifts for birthdays, like little sis is gonna have her birthday in January. My mom has a birthday in January. One of my best friends has a birthday in January. And so gift giving is fine because that's not like, it's not triggering in the same way. Also, if we trade in books at Mr. K's, the used bookstore, and we have credits, like we'll get more books. But the categories of things we're not buying, they feel just too big. Everything else, right? Anything that gets used up, we can replace that we use regularly. So obviously, like I'm still making my doTERRA order each month because it's shampoo, laundry detergent, soap, bubble bath, all of the oils we actually use every day and rub on it for our health, our vitamins, our supplements like On Guard to boost our immune system, or Try Ease to open up our breathing, or lozenges. Like all those are like in the category of necessary, like Band-Aids. Like we went through a lot of Band-Aids when we had toddlers. The oils that we diffuse, like we use up, like anything we're using up, we'll replace. So obviously we're not gonna like just go without shampoo. And that includes things like Jay, when he paints his minis, he has a spray that coats them. And what is it called? Your finishing spray? It's called finish.
Spray. It's the
paint?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was a spray.
Like the finish.
Okay, the finish. He's about to run out of it. He'll replace it when he runs out of it. The thing is, we're not going to go replace it beforehand. And when he goes to replace it, we're not going to like also buy a couple other things in the store. Because that's how it used to work. It'd be like, I'm going to go get a, I don't know, $20 finishing paint. And then we would come out with like $40 worth of stuff. That's what we're talking about. So obviously if I run out of any of my paints, which I can't imagine that I would because I've had them for 10 years and still haven't run out of them, I could knit for the next 10 years and not run out of yarn. I could make another 4 quilts and not run out of fabric. Like I only buy fabric for specific projects. So I have 4 quilts worth of fabric. Like I could read, okay, so I read over 130 books last year. I have at least on my shelf of like read this next, I have 50 books that I own that I could read. Not to mention I have another 15 checked out from the library right now. So it's not like we're doing without. Does that make sense? The last question I had when we were talking about this is, what about if we get a placement? If we get a new placement, we're going to look at what we already have, and then we're going to make a list of what we need and have a specific like amount of clothes you need for a baby. You know what I mean? Like you need to have enough onesies and burp cloths and pants to like go through several outfits a day. Right? With the first baby we ever had vomited so much. It was like her and I both went through in one day 7 different shirts. And even more than that, burp cloths. So she just vomited constantly. So for the babies, I have like a number of things we need to get, or that we need to have, but first we'll look at what we have, and then I'll contact the foster care closet and ask for the things that we need. And then we'll go to Target. And the big thing, you got to go to Target all the time when you have babies. It's just like a thing. And what we'll do is we will have a list and only get what's on the list. And if we see something that's not on the list that we want to get, we'll come home, write it down, wait a week, and then go back and get it if we still want it a week later. And the other reason for that is kids go home. Like you'll think, oh my gosh, we just went to court. This kid's going to be with us for another 3 months. And they call you up 2 days later and say, actually, no, a family member can take them. So just to go over that, I said what we are buying, our subscriptions, when things run out, groceries. So the stuff we are not buying for 3 months, books, that's a hard one. Basically anything on Amazon. I'm just not opening Amazon anymore. Amazon is like a dark hole, because what will happen is we'll be like, we need a cruelty-free mousetrap. Okay, but I have 5 other things that have been sitting on my Amazon cart that I found through the month. So I'm just going to go on and buy them when I buy the cruelty-free mousetrap. No Amazon, nothing. Stop it. Step away from the Amazon. No Amazon, no books, no house decor stuff. I say as I sit in front of my really cute birdhouses we painted. I'm really proud of myself. I got these for $3. But regardless, no house decor stuff. Nothing at Target. except for that is on our list before we go in there. If we see something we want, if it's personal, like it's for us adults, we will write it down and wait till the end of our no buy. If we still want it at the end of the quarter, we'll talk about like, what is everything that's on this list that we were like, oh my gosh, I have to buy it in the moment. We're going to write it down and look at it. Do you want to buy it or not? And almost always the answer is no. Like if I wait a week on anything, I don't want it anymore, which is part of my not wanting to spend money. But then the other, it will help Jay with his like trigger finger. So Target's out, except for necessities. Amazon is out. Fast food and eating out when it's just us is out. Books. Is there another category? Does anybody spend money on anything other than that? That's all I ever spend money on. Oh, Old Navy is out. I'm not even going in Old Navy. If I need to get clothes at the end of the quarter, I'm going to get a Stitch Fix. So that is our plan. That is what I mean by no buy. It's not going to be for the whole year. It's going to be for the first quarter. We will look at it, and I'll do an update at the beginning of the next quarter. January, February, March. So that'll be the beginning of April. You'd think I'd know that. And I'll do an update at the beginning of April if we're not in the middle of like a crazy placement time. And I'll tell you how it's going, how it went, what we learned about ourselves, and what we're choosing to do going forward. For me, the key to this is that it is a project that is fun and exciting, that is about changing our mindset and recognizing our stuff. So as fun and exciting as working on your own stuff and doing like therapeutic work can be, that's what this is. Like that has to be what this is. It can't be about deprivation and scarcity, or else we like rubber band back from it. That's not how we want to live. So that's what it comes back to, is living the way we want to live, making decisions the way we want to make decisions, and stepping back to identify our own stuff. So if you wanted to try it out, the thing I would say is you have to get anyone who you share a bank account with on board. The other videos I watched were all women, and they were like, oh, my husband or my partner knows what I'm doing and he's fine with it. But like for me, like I wanted Jay to actually join me for this so that you could hear his perspective, but he just didn't want to be on camera and talk about it. He's fine with me talking about it. He just didn't feel like it. And because it's not just me, it's both of us. Because we both have our own issues, and it's very easy in our relationship to blame the other person's issues on why we don't X, Y, Z. So like, well, I would do that, but you're gonna blah, blah, because we know each other's triggers, we know each other's stress responses, and it's very easy to say you are the reason why we're not saving money, instead of looking at, well, what do I do? And then I think you both have to be on board and willing to recognize your own crap when it comes up. The other thing I would say is you need to ask yourself, what are your particular money stories and feelings about money, and where do you struggle? And if you do overspend or overshop, when do you do it? And like both, what categories of items do you do it? What sites do you do it at? What things are you into? And is that helping you live the life you want to live or not? If you buy yarn every week and it makes you feel amazing and you love it, and there is nothing about it that feels bad, there is nothing about it that's bad. It does not come with, like, I really don't like the idea that stashes are to be hidden or to be felt guilty about. There is no morality attached to your yarn stash, your fabric stash, your paint stash. It doesn't matter how long you've had it. It doesn't matter if you ever use it. If you bought it with your money and it was a wise decision for you and you feel good about it, that's why I don't like to say good or bad. It's like wise or unwise for you in your particular living situation. And if you're watching this and this is triggering your, oh my gosh, I never have enough, I could never do a no buy because I never have enough, you work on that. My life and income and options are not going to be your life and income and choices, because we have different lives. So it doesn't need to reflect on yours in any way. It has nothing to do with you. So I just want to remind you of that. It has nothing to do with you. What has to do with you is what you want to do with your own life, what goals you have, what things you want to save for, what things you want to spend on, what things you want to earn from. Nothing that anybody else is doing has anything to do with you, except for if you share a bank account with them. Just want to remind you of that because it can be very triggering to watch other people's stuff. Like, I was not planning on talking about this. And even though like YouTube videos is what sparked like me learning more about it, I was not planning on talking about this because it really has nothing to do with anybody else. Unlike business lessons where I can like help you in your business, this is like completely personal. And like, I'm not trying to get you to do it. You know what I mean? Like, I am trying to get you to build a business based on your passion and make it profitable and sustainable so that you can do it for a long time. That I care deeply that you do that. I don't care deeply that you're a vegan, and I don't care deeply if you spend or don't spend your money. But I decided that I wanted to share it because I know that watching other people talk about their money-based stress responses and their money stories have helped me recognize stuff in myself. And so if it can help you recognize some of your stories or that of a loved one that may be super frustrating to you, like you might be married to a Tara and be like, I've never understood why they're like this. That's my hope, is that it is helpful in understanding yourself or understanding other people. And then what you choose to do with that is like completely up to you. There's going to be a lot of possible solutions. A budget, you need a budget.com, no buy periods, savings goals. Like some people do really good, like having an image of a savings goal that they fill up. Like that just does it for them. They don't need any other roles. They just need that, like a visual representation. The other reason I want to talk about this is I feel like there is some shame. Well, this is kind of what I was talking about. So in some communities, there's some shame about not being able to spend money on things, on especially particular things. So in your community, it might be makeup or getting your hair done or nails, which I'm painting myself at home. In some communities, choosing not to spend money on a designer purse or shoes or clothes or making your house look a certain way. Like I feel like that's really big in the corner of the internet that I pay attention to. It's more about your house looking in for a certain way or your craft supplies being a certain expense level. Like that can be embarrassing or shameful or make you feel less than. So that's why I just wanted to talk about it, because I think that your relationship with money impacts your ability to earn money and to keep money and to use the money in a way that makes the life you want. Your spending relationship with money impacts all of that. And we can't only ever talk about earning more money if you don't also think about what are you doing with it and how do you feel about it and what is that adding to your life. I know a lot of makers and artists struggle to make money with their craft because of their money stories around what deserves to be paid, what is valuable, what is worthwhile, what they can spend money on, the investment they're allowed to make in themselves. There are all these stories. They're all tied up, not just into your spending, but also into your earning when you are running your own business, like we all are. I hope this helps. I love you bunches. I hope you have a great day. I will see you in my next video, which is 2020 planner lineup.